You are glowing right now. Not metaphorically. Actual photons leaving your face. I found that out and had to lie down, because everyone I've ever stood next to in a dark room was also glowing, and I was too dim to see a single one of them. That's the catch. Your body is making light. Faint, shifting, brightest at the face. And it is the one light source in the universe you were specifically built to miss. Your eye can catch one photon. A single one. That's the floor of human vision. The glow coming off you right now is 1,000 times dimmer than that. In 2009, a team in Japan sat people in the dark, ran an hour-long exposure, and photographed a human being giving off light. He's not crazy. He's right. He does glow. We're going to talk about why. And then we're going to meet Kirk. No relation, because there's always a Kirk who also knows you glow, has a theory about what that means, has a whiteboard, and has explained the whiteboard at a wedding. By the end, you'll know where Kirk's right, where he drives off the cliff, and how to tell those apart. That last part is the only thing here that actually helps you. A firefly makes its light on purpose. Yours is a leak. The light is coming from a fire. Not a metaphor, not a vibe. An actual slow, controlled combustion happening in every cell in your body right now, unauthorized, while you do other things. You take the food you ate. You take the oxygen you just breathed. You set one against the other, in a process that has been running continuously since before you were born, and has never once asked your permission. The leftover heat is why you're 37 degrees instead of room temperature. The occasional spark that escapes as light is the glow. You've been quietly combusting your entire life, and nobody framed it that way. Here's why it matters. A fire has an engine. Something in there is doing the burning, deliberately, at scale, billions of times a second. It built itself. It's been running longer than animals have existed. It's running right now in the dark while you're watching a stickman explain it to you. Which raises an obvious question about who exactly is in charge of keeping you alive while you're not paying attention. The answer is weirder than you want it to be. And it involves a wheel. Hold one fact for me. Don't do anything with it yet, just hold it. Inside almost every cell you own, and you have 37 trillion, which I looked up and immediately regretted, there are little battery-shaped things called mitochondria. You've heard of mitochondria. Everyone's heard of mitochondria. Nobody tells you what's bolted to the inside wall. Machines. Not metaphorical machines. Not machine-like processes. Actual physical spinning machines. Two things in all of biology actually spin. This, and the tail a bacterium swims with. The wheel we hand kids as our idea, a cell was turning 1-2 billion years early. Here's what one does. It's a hydroelectric dam. The man who worked that out got laughed at for 15 years, then handed a Nobel for it. Remember that? It comes back. Protons pile up on one side of a wall. They want through. The cell gives them one door. The door is a wheel. They pour through. The wheel spins. And the spin welds loose parts into a molecule called ATP, the only money your body actually spends. Every heartbeat, every thought, this one, right now, ATP, minted by a spinning wheel in the dark. This wheel turns hundreds of times a second. You're running quadrillions of them right now. The man who proved it physically spins won a Nobel in 1997, because nobody could accept that a cell built a working motor 2 billion years before we invented the wheel. Every engine we've ever built, every car, every jet, everything we've pointed at the sky, runs at maybe 40% efficiency on a good day. The ATP motor runs at nearly 100. It's not an inspirational sports movie. It's 2,000 years of engineers losing to a protein. And about one proton in every 6,000 showing up to that door is faintly, quietly, structurally wrong. It's been wrong since the oceans formed. It dragged the problem in when the universe was still deciding what water would be. That's the one Kirk found. So, the protons. You'd think a proton is a proton, smallest, simplest thing on the premises. Nothing to get wrong, no moving parts, and for about 5,999 out of every 6,000, that's exactly what happens. But one of them is carrying a neutron. It picked it up when the oceans were forming and never put it down. Same hydrogen, double the weight, permanently inconvenienced, completely silent about it. It's called Deuterium, heavy water. The Allies bombed a factory in Norway in 1943 to keep this exact atom out of a Nazi reactor. Same atom, and it's in your coffee right now, and your blood and Kirk's water. Which is not your coffee, Kirk would like you to know. Kirk has feelings about your coffee, which we will get to. Here's a thing you can verify in any first-year chemistry textbook. No podcast required. A chemical bond built with heavy hydrogen is harder to break than the same bond built with the normal kind. Measurably harder. It sits lower, grips tighter. Any reaction that has to snap, it runs slower. Up to 6 or 7 times slower. Chemists have known this for the better part of a century. It's called the kinetic isotope effect. And it's so dependable we now build certain drugs heavy on purpose. Specifically so your liver gets tired trying to break them down and the drug lasts longer in your system. We invented exhausting medication. Deliberately. It's a product. You can prescribe it. 2 facts. 1 room. The conclusion practically draws itself. And Kirk drew it fast before the evidence had finished showing up. Kirk is a glowy. He drinks special water. I want to be clear that the water is a real product. You can buy it. Someone actually built a factory, ran ordinary water through industrial distillation, skimmed off a portion of the heavy hydrogen, bottled what was left, and priced it like a decent burgundy. It's called deuterium-depleted water. Tap water sits at around 150 parts per million deuterium. Kirk's water goes as low as 25. He buys it by the case. His logic, I have to admit, is clean. Motor runs on hydrogen. Heavy hydrogen drags the motor. Therefore, lighter fuel, cleaner burn, and Kirk personally arrives at 120 with the mitochondria of the 19-year-old while the rest of us run on tap water like animals. He has a whiteboard. The whiteboard has arrows, color-coded arrows. He has explained the whiteboard at a wedding. He told the couple they'd never be separated if they did a carnivore diet. He brought them a case of DDW as a gift and felt it was important to mention what it cost. The groom nodded for a very long time. And here's where I have to be annoying and fair to him. 2 of those arrows are actually correct. The water is genuinely depleted. That's just chemistry. You can test it. The kinetic isotope effect is real. That's been in the literature for 80 years. There are actual scientists in actual labs running actual careful studies on whether dropping deuterium does anything measurable in a living system. Not Kirk scientists, real ones. That's not nothing, and I'm not going to pretend it is. The problem is the 3rd arrow. The one that runs from heavy hydrogen slows chemical reactions in a test tube all the way across to, and therefore the completely ordinary amount of deuterium that has been in my body since birth is meaningfully throttling my ATP synthesis, and I should spend $40 a liter on water. That arrow has no ground under it. Nobody has shown that the deuterium already in you, at the level it's always been at, drags your motor enough to register against the noise of everything else your cells are doing. The studies that exist are small, early, mostly in mice. Kirk does not have a section of the whiteboard for the mice. He has a section for testimonials, though. That section is very large. Kirk isn't alone. There's a whole country of people who found the same mechanism and kept going. Follow the trail far enough and you reach Jack Kruse, neurosurgeon, practicing, extremely online. He has a theory that starts with mitochondria and light and ends somewhere I did not expect. His version, the motor isn't just a motor, it's a light engine. Your cells give off light that isn't random exhausts, it's organized, coherent, more like a laser than a spark. That part comes from an actual physicist, Fritz Albert Popp, who spent decades arguing biophoton light is coherent. Real argument, real journals. Kruse took it and ran. Somewhere in the sprint, coherent light became your body's light is stronger than the sun, which is not what Popp said. But it didn't come from nowhere either. Then there's the fat. When your cells burn fat, really burn it, keto, carnivore, they make their own water as a byproduct, and that water is lower in deuterium than what you drink. Your mitochondria, running on fat, brew their own lighter water. The heavy hydrogen gets crowded out by the process itself. This part's real. I checked. The biochemistry holds up. Sit down, carnivores. I'm not done. The people up at 5 a.m. eating a steak barefoot in the sunrise, a real lifestyle, with real podcasts, stumbled onto a genuine mechanism. Every piece of this has something real underneath it. Kruse welded all of it together, and kept welding long past where the evidence handed him the tools. Here's what stuck with me. If your own fat metabolism makes deuterium-depleted water, you don't need the $40 bottles. You might just need to burn fat, which is either the smartest thing Kirk has ever said, or the reason he's eating a ribeye at 5 a.m. in his bare feet calling it a protocol. Possibly both. There's a question underneath all of this that the jokes don't reach. The reason serious researchers are in this space at all, not Kruse, not Kirk, actual oncologists, is cancer. A century ago, Otto Warburg won a Nobel for noticing tumors burn fuel wrong. Then he insisted that was the whole story. It wasn't. But the broken metabolism was real, and no one ever stopped looking. The specific hypothesis, under careful, slow examination, is whether tumor cells, which burn fuel in a frantic and broken way, might be unusually sensitive to deuterium. Whether lowering it does something to them that it doesn't do to healthy cells. That's a legitimate question. Cell cultures, animal models, a handful of small human trials, real institutions, real methodology. It is nowhere near settled. And a promising result in mice sits a very long distance from a treatment. That distance is where people die, not from the disease moving faster, but from the treatment that would have worked not being given because the bottle was trusted instead. The gap between what the evidence says and what the whiteboard says stops being funny the moment a real person with a real diagnosis is standing in it. The honest answer is, we don't know yet. People are checking. The question is real. The product is not the answer. And you do not get to drink your way out of an appointment. The light. We left it burning. The glow is exhaust from the slow fire, sparks off the same motor we've been talking about. But the sparks aren't random. Stressed cells burn hotter and throw more of them. Healthy cells burn clean and throw fewer. The faint light coming off you right now is a live readout of how your fire is running. A few researchers think you might one day read it like a dashboard, catch a flare before it becomes a symptom. That's early, but it's the good kind of early, with an actual signal to measure instead of a whiteboard arrow pointing at one. And the connection Kruse was reaching for, the one that's actually fair to make, is this. It's all one engine. Your mitochondria burn food with oxygen, and that one fire throws off three things at once. It spins the motor. That's your energy, your ATP. It leaves a little water behind. Exhaust. And when you're burning fat, that water comes out lighter than the water you drink, which is the exact thing Kirk bottles and sells you for $40 a liter. And it leaks a little light. The glow. Motor, water, light. Same fire. 3 ways of watching it burn. That's the whole connection. Not magic. Plumbing. He's not wrong that they're linked. He found something real. He just kept running after the evidence stopped handing him ground. Remember the man they laughed at for 15 years? He turned out right. That's the trap. The laugh doesn't tell you which one you're looking at. You have to check the ground under the arrow. Kirk found the same connection. Kirk also kept running, which brings us back to the man in the dark room. He's still there. In my head, he's still there, sitting perfectly still in the pitch black, pointing a camera that costs more than his car at his own face, waiting for the hour exposure to finish. He came for proof that he's special, that the glow means something he can buy and optimize and use to stiff death on the bill. He's the honest twin of every aura photographer who ever lived. Same dark room, same hunger. His camera just counts photons instead of selling him a halo. The camera doesn't do meaning. It counts photons. And what it found? What a team in Japan found in 2009, published, peer-reviewed, sitting in the literature right now, is that every person who has ever sat in front of that lens gives off the same faint light, rising and falling on the same rhythm, brightest at the face, following a clock that runs whether you know about it or not. Kirk gives off this light. You give off this light. The scientist in the dark room gives off this light. The guy Kirk cornered at the wedding gives off this light and didn't know it and honestly had a pretty rough evening. You were always lit. Tonight, in the dark, you'll be the brightest thing in your room, with no way to confirm it. The motor keeps spinning. The sparks keep flying. The fire doesn't need you to know about it to keep burning. So here's the part worth keeping. The glow is real. The motor is real. The cancer question is real. And the second something's real, someone shows up to sell you the bottle. The move was never to buy it. It was never to laugh the whole thing off either. It's to check the ground under the arrow. That's the whole skill. It's the only thing here that actually helps you. Kirk knows about it. Kirk has a follow-up whiteboard. Kirk has been reading. Next time we do the other half. Sunlight, and the genuinely strange amount of your biology that turns out to be hardwired to a star. Same sign-off every time, so you might as well learn it now. It's not you. It's the system. In you it's.